Then manhandled. Self-proclaimed race realist told to go home.
Live from our Maritime News Center, this is CTV News.
Welcome back. Well, as we told you earlier tonight, tempers flared in downtown Halifax last night when boisterous protesters disrupted a planned speech by Jared Taylor. Mr. Taylor is a writer and publisher of American Renaissance, a magazine that explores issues of race and immigration. Mr. Taylor was supposed to have participated in a debate at Dalhousie University Monday on Martin Luther King Day on whether racial diversity is a strength or a weakness. But back in December, Professor David Devine of Dalhousie backed out of that debate. Jared Taylor showed up anyway in Halifax for a discussion at a downtown hotel, but he was unable to give that talk. He was shouted down by demonstrators, many demanding that he get out. Mr. Taylor left Halifax this morning, but he joins us tonight from our news bureau in Washington. Good evening, Mr. Taylor.
Good evening.
What's your version of what happened last night at the Lord Nelson Hotel?
Oh, I don't think there's any dispute as to what happened. Before I could even be introduced, some 20 or 30 people filed in, started banging pots and pans and screaming obscenities, and completely broke up the meeting. That lasted for maybe 10 minutes, and I kept waiting for the police to come, and then I was surrounded by louts who then forced me physically, bodily out of the room. I was shocked. I've never been treated like that before in my life. I've made dozens of public presentations, never been treated that way.
I'm curious to know.
I think...
Go ahead.
Yes. Well, it just suggests to me that just as Professor Devine pulled out of the debate, I think because he was afraid of having a serious debate as to whether racial diversity is a strength or a weakness for Canada. These people are terrified of a dissenting view. They were so terrified of hearing something other than what they're accustomed to that they decided they would not allow me to speak. I think it's contemptible.
I'm curious to know why you came to Halifax if you knew the debate was canceled.
Well, I planned to attend. The debate itself was not canceled so much as Professor Devine had decided to turn it into a dialogue. I thought that very unmanly on his part to have wriggled out of a debate. He had promised that he would summarize my views and then refute them. I think that's setting up a straw man. And I think Halifax deserved better than that. I think Halifax deserved to hear both sides. And that's why I had arranged to give my version of events on the following day. So I thought, as I say, we need to hear both sides of this question rather than have one side completely shut out.
Some people are suggesting that you were hoping to provoke a response. Is that true?
Gosh, absolutely not. Nothing of the sort. Who's suggesting that? No, as I say, yes?
Mr. Devine, for starters.
Well, I don't know where he gets that idea. No, I was hoping to have a civilized debate. And then, failing that, I was hoping to have a chance to deliver my remarks. In fact, my remarks are available on our webpage at amren.com. I was perfectly prepared to give what I think is a series of very powerful arguments as to why racial diversity is a weakness for Canada and not a strength. I think these arguments deserve attention and they deserve a response. But in Halifax, they've been completely shouted down. Once again, I think this is disgraceful.
Your critics call you a racist and a white supremacist. You call yourself a white separatist. What's the difference?
I call myself a race realist. As far as separation is concerned, I believe in complete freedom of association. Those who wish to mix racially are certainly welcome to do so. But for the most part, and you'll find this in Canada as well as in the United States, left to themselves, people generally prefer the company of people like themselves. I think that's entirely normal and natural. Furthermore, wherever you look all around the world, where people are most diligently killing each other, it's over issues of diversity, whether it's race, religion, language, ethnicity. Diversity is one of the most divisive forces on the planet. And therefore, I think it's dangerous to establish policy on the assumption that diversity is a strength.
Do you not think we can make racial diversity work?
I'd like to see the evidence for it. In my speech, I had example after example of how diversity is failing to work in Canada. And I'd like to know from those who propose that it's a strength, what exactly it does for Canada. Does it improve crop yields? Does it reduce greenhouse gases? Does it improve GNP? I'd like for someone to explain concretely, specifically, what are the strengths of racial diversity? Because, as I say, I can list innumerable weaknesses.
Was this your first time in Halifax, sir?
Yes, it was. And aside from this very disagreeable experience with this 24 or so louts, I found Halifax to be a charming city. I found the people very agreeable, polite and welcoming, which made this episode all the more shocking.
And based on the treatment that you received in Halifax, would you return?
I would certainly return if I had some sort of assurances that a civilized debate was going to be possible. As I said before, I think my critique, and it's not original to me, any serious critique of racial diversity deserves a response. Canada is committed to racial diversity almost as if it were a state religion. And for this to be off limits for criticism, I believe is a very dangerous state of affairs. The people who interrupted my lecture and shut down the event, they seem to think that what I had to say was perhaps so dangerous it shouldn't even be heard. You can't run a country in which debate takes that form.
Thanks for your time tonight, Mr. Taylor.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Jared Taylor is a writer and publisher of American Renaissance. He joined us tonight from our news bureau in Washington. And just as a postscript to our interview, in the interest of balance and fairness, we asked Professor David Devine of Dalhousie University to participate in our interview with Jared Taylor, but Professor Devine declined our invitation. And now we'd like to hear what you have to say. What do you think about Mr. Taylor's position on race issues and race diversity, and whether he has a right to debate those opinions? Send us an email. This is our address. It is atlanticnews@ctv.ca. We'll share some of your views tomorrow night here on this program. Still ahead tonight on CTV News.